All right, welcome back. This is Kyle from the podcast Two Protects One, and we're going to finish discussing the Dave Landau interview that he did with Michael Malice. So I promised you a part two. I'm going to deliver a part two. I feel like watching the entire interview is beneficial. Okay. Like I said last night, that some people watched clips of the interview and took some of the information out of context. Okay. Now, I did watch, what's that guy's name? Anthony Kume. I can't remember how to pronounce it. But yeah, I watched his show. He did a live stream and he went over the majority of it. And it was good information. Dave actually used to work for him and, you know, left him to go to Crowder. So he works for, Anthony works for Compound Media and works a lot with like Gavin McGinnis. So it was actually a really good show. A lot of good information, insider information about Dave. Dave, he worked for Crowder for 3 years, worked for Anthony for a couple years. So I thought it was good information. But before we get into this, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the channel, comment. If you comment on Rumble, I'll actually read your chats online. I do have the YouTube chat pulled up too. So last night when I was doing this, the YouTube chat wasn't popping up on my screen for some reason. So, but if you drop a comment, I'll read it on air. As long as it's appropriate, of course. But I want to go through the rest of this interview. Got about 40 minutes left, so hopefully be able to get through it, fairly quickly or whatever. But the end was there was too much information in the end to ignore it. So I'm going to quit talking and we're just going to jump right into this interview. So give me a second and I will pull it up. So here we are. As you can see, it is pulled up. And it's right where we left off at, I do believe. I hope. I'm going to be pissed if it's not. So I know where we're at, so I'm not too worried. We're about the 106 mark. So an error occurred. Okay. What did they take it off Michael Malice's show? Or maybe my internet cut out or something. So hold on. Oh. What kind of some kind
So
of
fat. Brendan, you're not fat. It's the shirt.
Some kind of stupid ass ad.
Look at Nate. His true classic is titled.
Okay.
The White Pill is available now at whitepillbook.com.
All right. Good thing I checked this today and seen where we were at. So we're about the 106 mark. So I'll go back just a little bit.
Oh, Dave was 5 minutes late?
Yeah, they go, how can you prove that? Well, our watches are different. This is when I had to now start dumping money into entertainment lawyers. So a lot of the money.
So here Dave is talking about the no or the tardy policy. So Crowder implemented, well, I think I was around the 1 hour mark. So we'll go back a little bit. I had it all set up and for some reason I think my internet might have cut out or something.
We'll go back a little. Great numbers and make bank by putting out their special themselves, cutting out the middleman. People are more than happy to toss 10 or 12, 20 bucks. I don't know how much it costs, but it's like, hey, listen, if I don't support this artist, he's not going to be able to pay the rent. I'm more than happy to chip in because I'm getting content that I enjoy. He's making me laugh. This is fair. So his point was this comedy special, which wasn't have anything to do with him. It's your comedy, your stand-up.
Yep.
It's can only be he's now just, even though for the same money, he's now going to kind of subsume that into his portfolio.
Yes, it's all inclusive.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a non-negotiable term.
So in Dave's new contract that he got, that was one of the stipulations, that his new special, which I do think featured Crowder in it, okay, was now a part of Louder with Crowder. Like Crowder owned that, okay, and Dave didn't want him to own that because it was all about Dave. Dave was the headliner. Dave had a bunch of personal stories in it, and he wanted that special. So what happened, and I think he goes into detail here in a second, is that he took that special and redid it and put it out himself. And there's a website you can go to actually buy the special. So maybe I'll figure that out and drop it at the end of this.
Okay. How were you told? They told you this is non-negotiable?
Yeah. And since I know everything's always being recorded, I was like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and record this too.
Okay.
And I took a screenshot, and then I was either that or I was 1099. And,
wow.
And that would be for lower money. And it was these parameters that, and I'll send you that because I think it's only fair. That included.
Well, why don't you read them? You don't need me to send them.
Post them. Please post away. It's fine.
You want me to post them? I'll tell the staff to post them.
Just on this. I mean, if you do a screenshot of the first, I just don't want people to think that it's some made up thing, because I just want people to know honestly why I left. And this is simply between, I'm not going into a lot of things that are behind closed doors, but I'm just, this is the reason I left. A few of the things that went in, goes into the back and forth. Studio Monday through Friday, 7:45 to 3:45. So now again, the times have changed.
Okay.
Just in a day. So it's again, company will enforce a strict 5-minute tardy policy.
Okay, that whole thing. Hold on a second. Let me. I'm gonna forward this right now before I forget. With is this the thing with the yellow?
No, the yellow was the last one. This one is just the first page of the independent contract.
So Dave here actually pulls up the contract, just a piece of it. It's not the whole contract, but the details that he gives during this interview are pretty shitty, like the contract deal. And I think it goes into more detail, but they basically wanted him to do a bunch more work with no extra pay, and basically make it to a point where he was working so much that he couldn't do a stand-up on the weekends. So he was taking a huge pay cut. And from his perspective, like I said last night, I don't think this was the right way to handle this. I really don't. But I can see being really pissed off about this contract, especially when Crowder came out and absolutely trashed the Daily Wire, which I don't like the Daily Wire. I like some of the people on the shows. I like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles, but that's about as far as I go. I don't really care for Daily Wire content. It's not something I watch or subscribe to. But Dave, this contract would piss me the fuck off. And I can just honestly say that I wouldn't like it, especially if I was, I've never had a contract like this. I've never worked for a big media company, so I don't know what all goes into it. But yeah, I wouldn't be happy with that. More work. I don't think anybody would actually be happy with more work and less pay, because without him doing his stand-up, he's not making the same that he made the year before.
contractor
with everything and all the things handwritten. You want me to include that as well?
Yes, this was what was eventually sent to me.
Okay, I'm going to send it right now to my producer, so he'll put it up on the screen.
And this eventually showed up on October 2022 after I refused to sign anything starting when I returned in August, because I just wouldn't sign anything and I just kept showing up to work like Costanza.
And they kept paying you.
Yeah, they kept paying me forever.
Okay,
and I took the money because I earned it.
Right, but I'm just saying it wasn't like, what are you doing here? They did keep paying you.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm looking at right here, and we're gonna have it on the screen. Oh, you're a third chair personality. You weren't the second chair?
No, I was third chair.
Okay. But the thing the thing that I'm seeing is company will enforce a strict 5-minute tardy policy. Contractor agrees that if he arrives to work more than 5 minutes late, he's in breach of Section 1, must leave company premises, and will not be compensated for the day the breach occurred. Contractor's breach of Section, and you can't seek reimbursement for the days the breach occurred. So I don't think they even have this at McDonald's, to be honest. Like, if you're 5 minutes late, like...
Yeah, that's crazy. You're 5 minutes late to work, and, they tell you to go home. And I go into it a little bit more here in a second, but it's like, how do you explain that to people that are waiting for Dave on your live TV show or on your live YouTube show? You just can't, I mean, Crowder talked about the Daily Wire being like this corrupt big con company. The way he runs his company ain't no fucking better. And I think people need to wake up and realize that, I'm not saying Crowder's show sucks or people should boycott his show, because I'll probably still watch it. Okay. But you got to realize these people are not who you think they are. Okay. You're watching a TV personality. Yeah, they have good takes. Okay. They're funny. But they are, just because they have, like I said last night, just because they have good chemistry on screen doesn't mean they're buddies or best friends. And sometimes you can get the impression that they're like super close when in reality, off screen, they're fucking them. And that's just how it goes. I mean, it's a business. Dave is a talent. He's a comedian. So you got agents involved, you got money involved. And anytime somebody feels like they're getting slighted, it's going to be an issue. You're going to have arguments. You're going to have disputes, and you're going to have interviews just like this.
Pack your crap and go home. How would that even be addressed on the air? Like, where's Dave? Oh, Dave was 5 minutes late?
Yeah, they go, how can you prove that? Well, our watches are different. Yeah, this is when I had to now start dumping money into entertainment lawyers. So a lot of the money that I even made on tour
right.
So, that became another issue.
So promotion, it says that they agree to promote your stand-up once a week at a time and in a medium of their discretion. So Correct. It could just be some random post somewhere that no one sees.
Correct. And that was because they had not been promoting.
And like I said yesterday, Dave talked about them not promoting his show. Okay. Now, I did notice, like, when Dave was first working with them, like, I don't even know if he was like touring or doing comedy shows, but I did notice they never promoted anything. But towards the end, they were promoting his show every day on air. Okay, so I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe he can clarify that, because he's scheduled for a couple different interviews over the next week or so. And the problem with this story and not keeping it in-house and not when you make it public like this, you have to tell this story over and over and over. And if there's any kind of inconsistencies, people are going to tear you apart. It's just the facts. I mean, do I believe Dave was right? Yeah. I mean, I would be pissed in this situation. But like I said, there's two sides to every story. So we'll see what comes out from Crowder, if he ignores it or, I don't know. I don't know what he could say to like refute it, like to battle back against Dave with it. But it's only going to get worse because Dave's going on Anthony Cumia's show. And then he was on somebody's podcast last night, and I seen it right before I jumped on, but I can't remember the name of the person. And I'm sure he had to answer questions on that one too, so he's going to have to continue to answer these questions. And Deb, yeah. So Sydney Watson, this was an issue when she worked at the Blaze. Okay. She didn't like her contract. She didn't like the fact that she didn't have any control over the show You Are Here. Okay. And now she's filing a lawsuit against the Blaze because of some kind of misconduct. And I'm going to do a show here in the next week or so about Sydney Watson, and I'm going to read her lawsuit online, and we're going to read it, most of the details, and we're going to laugh at her because her lawsuit is completely laughable. But anytime you get money involved and you have two big personalities, which Dave's seems like a pretty humble guy. I met him in real life. He's not, he had probably, 300 fans, after his show that wanted to meet him. Well, it might not have been that many, maybe 150 fans that wanted to meet him. We went to the late comedy show. It was late. It was probably 12:30. It was probably about 12:30 in the morning. Okay. And, he met everybody. He was happy. He was smiling. He was appreciative. He made sure he spent time with me and my wife, took pictures. So Dave, very approachable guy. Okay. And I say the same thing for like a Tucker Carlson. I met Tucker Carlson, very approachable guy. And he had probably 1,000 people waiting to get autographs. And he made sure that he spent time. So I've heard numerous stories that Crowder is not like that. That Crowder is a dick in real life. And some people just are. Okay. I mean, he has a company to run, and I've never worked for somebody like a boss that was a nice guy. I just haven't. They've always been a dick. But I think Dave was under the impression that he was part of the group and that he was part of these, it was like a group project, and really they looked at him as an employee, and that's not what he originally signed up for.
Me.
Okay.
And I put that I would, and it's in writing, and what I gave them was I would actually give them a commission of my sold out shows.
Okay.
And a commission of the shows if they were willing to actually promote my shows.
So is that your handwriting that I'm looking at?
Yes, it is.
Oh, so you said, okay, I'll give you guys 5% of the door if I sell out.
5% in general and 10% if I sell out.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Just because where else am I going to go to promote? I'm not on any other shows.
Right.
And I don't have time to go to other shows because I write for him. And at this point, I'm now desperate to promote my shows because he won't do it.
Okay.
So you have me and Matt McClowery. He's got a new daughter. We're going around the country, and I'm watching.
So, like I said yesterday, they promoted his shows, but I did notice that they promoted the shows that him and Crowder were on a lot more. Like they would mention it, 4 or 5 times in a show. When they promoted Dave's show, it was like right at the beginning of the show. And then they didn't talk about it. But I don't know. Dave's going to need a little bit more clarification on this one. And he's going to need to clarify on these interviews that he goes on the next couple weeks because it looks bad. It looks like he's lying because people watched the shows and seen that Crowder was promoting him or promoting his, his stand-up.
Ticket sales slide, and it's funny, like I'm literally in malls, like for example doing like a funny bone, and I'm in like a comic book store, and Matt and I are standing there, and a guy would go, "Hey, you're Dave Landau," and I go, "Yeah." And he'd be like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm performing at the Funny Bone upstairs." And he'd be like, really? You should mention your dates on your show. And I'd be like, yeah, I should. You're right.
Wow. That must have been like a knife in the heart.
It would hurt. Yeah. But I wouldn't tell them. I wouldn't go like, oh, it's because,
I'm not allowed.
I
got
got,
the lights on.
Yeah. And at that point, I had already had my, contract terminated. I could have said the truth, but I never.
Was it terminated or did it resolve? Was it like had a fixed date?
No, it never had a fixed date. It was just they had said that that was done, and
you were informed either verbally or in writing that your contract is hereby done. Okay.
Yes, and it was I had to choose either a 1099 or this new policy.
Okay.
And when Jeff asked me the choice, we were Buffalo Wild Wings, and I said, I guess whichever one fits up his ass better. Would you like to order lunch? Because I was pretty fucking pissed.
You said that?
Yep.
I gotta tell you, like, I know you fairly well at this point. We've hung out one-on-one on more than one occasion. You're not someone who's got a temper, to put it mildly. You're very open about your past with recovery. I know a lot of people who are addicts. Bridget Fettisy's husband, Jaron, just stayed with me. They're moving here. He's in recovery. And as is she. And one of the things that's commendable about addicts is addicts realize I should be in a coffin or I should be in a gutter. So it takes a lot to be like, you know what? This is unfair. This sucks. Because you guys have been through rock bottom. Isn't like, you know what? I got drunk and I was hungover. That's not rock bottom. That's the penthouse. You know what I mean?
So Malice is kind of right on this. Most recovering alcoholics and drug addicts, they're not very confrontational. Okay. They don't like to argue. They don't like to feel like they're a victim or like be put in that situation where they, or when they get put in that situation to get taken advantage of, they usually don't say anything about it. I did that for years. Okay. I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. Okay. And I was very non-confrontational, and I still am to some degree. I don't like confrontation, but I've gotten a little bit more aggressive in my older age. I think it's just me being grumpy and old. So, but yeah, most alcoholics or recovering alcoholics and drug addicts don't want to be like super confrontational. So for him to come out and do this, I don't know. It's going against probably what he normally does.
But that's paradise to someone who's an addict. Oh no, I was just hungover. Poor me. Rock bottom is like I'm crying grandma's crying at Thanksgiving dinner, and I don't care because I'm too effed up to realize. Yeah.
Yeah. Rock bottom is in an X position, handcuffed to a bed, while they're dumping cold on your throat. And your mother's crying.
Yeah.
Like that. And that's not even rock bottom, because once you get out, you still drink.
Yeah.
That's and that's the part that I don't think he ever grasped was I was and I'm still very forgiving of him, because whatever he has and whatever he's going through, I just think he was bullied at some point in his life, and he has become the bully, and he doesn't realize it. And that's what sucks is he's got a lot of yes men around him, and I really do love his staff and I love working with them, but I think that they are kind of just a little bit intimidated at this point to keep their own job. I know I was, so I don't blame him, but it's just there's just something there that I just don't grasp, because there is part of him that I know is good. I've met that person. But then he does stuff that's behind your back that's like this, and you're like, why are you doing this for power? And it's just not worth it to me. And at this point in my life, I have hit rock bottom enough, and I have been left with nothing enough, that I'm just going to go, all right, well, that's enough. I'm just go.
Yeah, I know what it's like to have nothing and be destitute, and I can do it. I've done it before.
Yeah, I can move on. I can go, and you can, he can.
I can 100% relate with that. Now, I don't know. I don't know if they've been to that rock bottom level for a while, but I've been in that position, like where you're at rock bottom, like you have no friends, you have no family, you don't have a place to stay. You're, basically trying to live out of your car. You've stolen from everybody that, you supposedly love. You're addicted to all kinds of shit. You're an absolute mess, can't keep a job. I've been in that position. It was a tough position. Very tough position. Now, so everybody's bottom is a little bit different, but I have been in that very tough position.
Claim martyr and make stuff up and say I did whatever, and I know the truth, and I know the people around me that know the truth, and that's just, and I'm being very, very generous here.
What happened when you said that line about you could shove it up his ass?
Jeff said, I figured it would go.
Did you catch that? Dave said, I'm being very generous here, meaning there's more to this story that's, stories of Crowder doing shitty things, but he's not going to expose that. So your favorite podcaster, your favorite YouTuber, your favorite political commentator, there's always shit that goes on behind the scenes, and you're probably not going to get the insider view on it very often. This is one of your chances where you will. But, they're all human. They're all going to make mistakes. Okay? They're all going to overreact, blow up on people. But if it's a constant theme, then, you got to take yourself out of that situation like Dave did. If it's a constant issue, it was probably best for him to just go.
Oh, probably a little something like this, and then we ordered lunch. And because Jeff said specifically to me, he goes, I don't understand why he's so high strung like this, because you're not doing anything wrong. He just made me watch a full tape where he said he fell asleep, and I'm like, he didn't, because he was always looking for that. And he said I don't understand, because you're turning in everything he's asking you to turn in. He was kind of confused by it, because he knew that it was this constant, like,
but let me ask that tardy clause. How often were you late to work?
Oh, like to the actual show, being started? Once.
Okay.
He had me get an iPhone, and I got rid of my Android because I do stupid shit sometimes. I set it for PM and not AM, and I was late to the show. But a lot of the times when I was supposed to be there at 8, I'd be there at 8:15, or I'd be there at 7:30, I'd be there at 7:50. But it was, again, because I was writing, and then I had to get ready to be on camera. It wasn't because of any other reason.
You were never late on camera?
No, never.
Other than once. Okay.
Only once.
Okay. Wow. Okay, because if you have a clause like that, it would imply to me that this is an ongoing problem, and we need to nip it in the bud. Wait, so this so-called tardy policy, do you know if this is something that other people had to deal with, or was this something exclusive to your contract, to your best of your knowledge?
Oh, no, it was just me. I mean, it was just me. It was odd because I wasn't allowed in rehearsal. So there would be a rehearsal, and they would go over everything, but I wasn't allowed in it. So I would have to sit in a separate boardroom with John, who works there, and just wait for 45 minutes, kind of arbitrarily.
Every day?
While they did.
That is weird. So Dave, in my opinion, now I know technically the way the show is formatted, that Gerald is the co-host. Okay, but anybody that's watched Louder with Crowder, Dave was the co-host. Okay, you know it by watching it. I mean, when Crowder was gone, he didn't have lame-ass Gerald sitting in the seat. He had Dave sitting in the seat because Dave was funnier. Dave was more entertaining. Gerald is boring. Okay? So, you're not going to have Dave in rehearsals? Okay? And first of all, why are you doing rehearsals? It seems like it's too scripted. I mean, I understand having maybe a format in front of you on topics you're going to talk about and maybe a direction you want to go. But dude, just let it flow naturally. Dave's going to think of jokes. You're going to think of jokes on the fly. And Crowder's ego, in my opinion, won't let Dave be funnier than him. And I noticed that on the show. I mean, I didn't notice any tension between them, but I noticed that when Dave would tell a joke, it was like almost like Crowder had to one-up him and take control of the segment. And that's fine. It's his show, but sometimes Dave's just going to be fucking funnier than you. It's just that simple. I mean, I don't know. It's this whole situation. So 45, they ask him to come to work early, to sit out in a waiting room for 45 minutes while him and the rest of the crew, while Crowder and the rest of the crew do a rehearsal.
The rehearsal for no reason, just because it was sort of an aspect of control while they did a rehearsal. And I wasn't allowed in the room. And my agent did fight, Steven's agent did fight to kind of get me in the room. Still never happened. And
what's the upside of not having the co-host during the rehearsals to make his comments fresher?
Yeah, I think so. He knew the jokes and where he could go quicker.
But why wouldn't you want the co-host to also know the jokes so you could go? I don't understand this. I'm trying to. I guess
you would seem funnier because you knew the topics better. I mean, even though I did know the topics because I was writing them into the show.
Okay.
But I guess it was just I don't know. I just was not allowed in the room.
You were never given reason, is my point.
Not really, no.
Okay.
So I would have to rush there to do nothing. So I would be playing with his dog while they did that.
Every day.
Unless we had to film something or I was to write something last minute, which wasn't very often.
Okay.
Because I had already written it the night before or that morning.
Okay. So this was what, August, you're saying?
Well, August and then October was when this other contract came in. I did.
Yeah, see, I would be pissed about that. You asked me to come in to work early. You asked me to be there at a certain time. And then I'm sitting around doing nothing, which I don't mind doing a little bit of nothing at work, okay? But if you're consistent with it, that would be like me working, like, okay, let's just take it from like a normal person's perspective. That would be like me coming into work and my whole team in my department would have a meeting without me. And during the whole meeting that they would go over all the stuff they want me to do or they were going to do for the day that I was like heavily involved in. It makes no sense. You would want Dave in that room, but I believe Crowder's got an ego and he don't want Dave's jokes going over better than his. And it's just that simple. Dave's funnier. He's in my opinion, Dave's a professional comedian. Crowder is more of a host. And I don't think Crowder's reconciled that yet. He's trying to get back into stand-up. I'll be interested to see how his stand-up does without Dave, if he's still going to go that direction.
Said, I'm not just going to have some deal where it's, a not a non-disclosure, but a non-negotiable thing. I'm like, that's just sorry, no. So I got the entertainment lawyer, filled it out, like I said, through this.
I don't understand that whole thing about telling you where your family has to live. I think that's kind of really that to me sounds really egregious.
Well, especially when one's sick and needs their own insurance and might have a job that covers that, and they know it.
Did you feel that was just like a twisting of the knife thing?
Yeah.
That just okay.
I felt it was very personal.
Okay.
I mean, that's why it's like hard to even get into, like, when still seem like a little jovial, because it's like, yeah, it's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're giving me one contract of like, you have to be here 7 days a week, except for possibly a Saturday every 6. And I would say that I would go, you said I could leave one Saturday every 6 weeks. And it's like, where does it say that, Dave? It's like, just because you change the verbiage doesn't mean it doesn't say that.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's had you been.
So he could only do stand-up once every 6 weeks. Okay. In his new contract, the one he never signed. So he basically had to work, 5 days a week. And it was like 7 to 3:30 Monday through Thursday. And then on Friday, They wanted him to work 9 to 5. And the reason why they wanted him to work 9 to 5 is so that he couldn't catch a flight to go do a show. He couldn't plan to do like a show out of town on Saturday or go see his, try to catch a flight to go see his son on Saturday. I mean, it makes everything a little bit more difficult. I don't know. I just think that Crowder seen that, basically what happened is they started touring together and Crowder saw that Dave was funnier. And even though Crowder was helping him sell out these shows, I think that, Crowder was freaking jealous of it.
Okay, let's look at it this way. Had you been promising him that you're going to move your family to Dallas?
If things had, and that never happened.
If things had, you broke up a bit. If
things had worked out.
Okay.
I said that there could be an opportunity for that.
Okay.
And if things it would be in my personal life and whatever, sure. But no, that wasn't, that would have never been my choice.
Well, it's not his business.
No.
Quite literally. It's not like your wife or your kid or whoever, your uncle or your grandpa are helping you, driving you to work or writing skits with you. I've seen some of your kids' comedy skits. They're not funny. Like his drawing is crap. He tries, but like, okay, not everything.
Better.
Not everything's a knock-knock joke.
He has a hook, Mike.
Upper hand.
Yeah, there's a. But like with Anthony, I was with Anthony for 3 years.
Yeah.
There was never even a mention.
Yeah.
I mean, when Anthony, people can say whatever the hell they want about him. If there was any.
So he'll be on Anthony's show on Monday, Anthony Cumier, and he'll be on his show Monday at 4:15.
The issue with my family, it wasn't even with any family member. It wasn't even discussed in a way of like, well, let's talk about this. Can you stay here until 10 p.m. and then maybe take a red eye to the funeral? It was always like, oh, why are you here? Like there was never even a thought in Anthony's head that anything should be more important than
that. Yeah. Okay. So when did the whole thing with Daily Wire happen? And what was your reaction to that?
That's kind of what happened with me. Was just before the break.
What was the break?
The break was winter break,
okay.
Right after he does his like Santa thing.
Okay.
Where like we went out for a minute and like I was dressed as an elf and I felt a bit degraded. And so I only like I think we filmed a couple things. Like we had some Visa cards and I was asking people questions and then I just started handing them to people that didn't speak the language. And then because I figured he'd never show that. So
that's fucking hilarious. So Dave didn't want to wear the elf costume. I'm not gonna lie, Dave. I can understand not wanting to wear the elf costume, but with your height, you are the perfect man for the elf costume. Okay? Shut up, you little angry elf. Get in the costume. I'm just kidding. But I do think it's funny. So, Dave being an angry elf. But anyway.
So I right before the break, I was in his office and it was me, him, and John, and he had a conversation with me that he wanted to put out my special and he was mad that I came to him because I had edited the special and I wanted to put it out.
So you filmed it without him in the interim?
I filmed a new one later without him because he wanted this one and I didn't want him to put it out.
The one that.
So I'm going to come back to this, but Deb put a good chat in the live chat here on Rumble. It says, I think Crowder's very insecure when the audience likes another guest more than him. And then she mentioned not gay Jared. So if you want to do a little bit of research, there has been other issues with Crowder and one of his employees and not gay Jared. And I think not gay Jared had to sign an NDA, or he's just not coming, or they asked him to sign it and he didn't sign it and he's just not saying anything. But yeah, there was a huge issue with that. They did like a going away show or something like that, and then they never mentioned him again. So Crowder has been known to do shit like he's being accused of. Quarter Black Garrett, he left on his own, came back for a few guest appearances. He hasn't been on the show for a while. I think he might have came back once when they started back up. But that relationship's probably over now. Quarter Black Garrett will probably never be back on the Crowder, Louder with Crowder show since, he's going to be doing a show with Dave. I definitely think Crowder will take this very personally.
Became a Prison 10.
Yes. So the original one was in Dallas, and I didn't want him to put it out because he just thought it was his.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. This is my life story. I mean, there's stuff in there about, my dad's death, my mom's suicide. Like, there's stuff in there that's so personal to me. So it's like, this isn't yours. So he brought me into his office, and
So he wanted to steal his comedy special. And not so much steal it, but he wanted to, basically he wanted to steal it. He wanted to own it. And it was Dave's comedy special that Crowder jumped on. Crowder jumped on this comedy special with him, started helping him sell out shows, which Dave was appreciative of. He even mentioned it. He said, I'm appreciative that, Crowder came with me. It was a draw. I sold out shows. I was doing really well. But it seemed like Crowder wanted more and more of the money. Crowder went behind his back and signed up with Dave's agent. And now all of a sudden, Crowder wants copyrights to the special that Dave made. And obviously what he says here is one that was very, special to him because it mentioned about his dad and he told stories about his dad and his mom, and he wasn't budging. And I think that's good. He stood his ground. He did the right thing in this situation.
Said how he wished that he made the amount of money that I did last year and all this other stuff. And
wait,
it was
what? He said that or intimated to that?
Yes.
Wait, he was implying that you made more money than him, or significantly more money than him.
Way more money than him, yeah.
Okay.
And I sat there and I believed it for a minute. I was like, I don't know what this guy must be paying these employees or what And I kind of sat there.
They're not cheap.
No, they're not. China's very expensive for the American Patriot
Holy
mug.
crap.
And he told me, you saying that to me, and I kind of sat there thinking I mean, I did well, but it's like, let's be real here. Like, it's not like that. And but it was really odd because it was like John was next to me. He's telling me that, like, I wish I made the amount of money
you made closer to fuck me money than fuck you money.
Yes. And I kept thinking, it's like you did make 70% of the tour, but somehow that
70% on tour. He made any special that they did, he made 70%. Like, I understand he's a draw. He brings in a lot of people. But Dave was still doing pretty good by himself, I mean, it's not like he was doing bad. He didn't need Crowder to come with him. I'm sure he appreciated the money. But all the shit he did behind his back was slimy. He was scheming and plotting and doing some really, in my opinion, some lefty type of behavior. This is what scumbags do behind your back. And I've stuck up for Crowder a few times, especially last night in the live stream. But this is not a friend. This is a scummy backstabber, in my opinion.
Adds into me making more. But, and I didn't know even the kind of money that came in. I didn't know the real YouTube thing. I didn't realize.
Nor was it your business, right? That's fair.
No, I never asked. It was none of my business.
Not your business. Yeah, it's his
show.
Yeah.
And look, he created that empire. It's his money. It's his show. I never, and everything that I agreed to. That's the truth. So I never complained because that's what I agreed to.
Right.
So yeah, the only thing I did complain about was like, you said you would promote my shows and you didn't, and that pissed me off. Okay. So but then we were on Christmas break and I didn't know what we were going to do. I didn't know if we were going to the Daily Wire or staying with the Blaze or whatever this whole controversy is. And then all of a sudden he's there talking about a contract for 50 million. Now he didn't out the Daily Wire. He just said it was a contract for 50 million and said it was somebody. It was pretty obvious who it was, but in his defense, he didn't out them. But then Jeremy came out and outed it too.
Jeremy, the head of this Daily Wire.
Right. And I saw it and I thought $50 million, and I like looked at
it. And he turned down 50 million. Let's be clear. Or up. I think 50 million was the ceiling, but it wasn't starting at 50. But yeah,
yes.
For $50 million, Ben Shapiro can have my foot.
Oh, for 50 million. I couldn't even believe it, but it's also going.
Damn, Malice is quick to sell out. That's funny. See, I like Malice to a certain degree, but I don't trust this dude either. Okay? Hanging out with trannies like Blair White. Okay? Don't trust that. And he says he's an anarchist, but he has ads on his show from like Progressive Auto Insurance and like a bunch of weird shit. Like he's this anarchist, but he's like selling books and like, I don't know. I don't fucking trust this guy. He comes out and I think he's more of I don't know, in my opinion, an actor more than he is. He talks a lot of shit, but I don't think he really believes in what he says.
It hit me too, though, because that means, what are we worth? That I just sat in an office and was shamed. The timeline met up to back in August that he first got this $50 million offer through my agent that I introduced him to.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Was at the same time that he knew what was going on in my personal life, that he decided to slide me a contract that said you have to do all this when he was being offered 50 million.
Yeah.
People are saying how much it costs to run the studio and everything else. It's like, So the way that I looked at it, I was like,
Challenger.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest points of contention with Daily Wire. He said Crowder, when that contract came out and it was exposed it was Daily Wire, Crowder said, well, you don't know how much money it costs to run the studio and pay all the employees. I'm not going to have a whole lot of money left over. And that was a fucking lie. Like Dave's basically telling you right there, like, nah, don't believe that.
Let's not.
It's not cheap, but it's not 50 million. Yeah.
Hell, he's making a ton of money, which I'm not saying he doesn't deserve, but it's like at the same time, you knew that you were making a profit and I was working very hard to help you make that profit. And your response was, fuck you. I'm going to take everything from you. And I just kind of was watching that like, is this for real?
Yeah.
And then they came back and said, well, we're going to kind of negotiate where, we come back with something, you come back with something. This isn't a contract. This is an offer sheet. And I listened to both sides and I thought, well, it seems that Jeremy's being very upfront and transparent here because he's pointing out everything. So I listened to a bunch of, different talking heads, but from what I could gather, each side had their points, but I felt that it was more of a stop big com thing seemed a little much.
Yeah.
And it seemed like pushing more of this infighting and this narrative. And if people really have these ideologies that they want to push and believe, it didn't come off as very true. It just came off as more of what I had experienced, and
now see when the whole Daily Wire thing happened between the Daily Wire and Crowder, I kind of took Crowder's side. And it's because I don't like the Daily Wire. I have my own personal reasons why, not personal reasons, but I have my own reasons that I'm not going to share why I don't like the Daily Wire. A lot of times I feel like, not everybody, obviously, but I feel like some of them are more controlled opposition. Like they go right to a certain point. Like there's a lot of content creators that'll take it to the edge and go over that edge and push over that line and say the truth. Well, I feel like some people in Daily Wire will get straight to get close to the edge and turn back and go, or not even get close to the edge, but get so far and then turn back, and they leave out some shit, some important information that, people need to know, but they're talking about this over here, but ignoring the other issues. So I kind of took Crowder's side, and really I shouldn't have took anybody's side, because it's Dave's exposing right here that there was some bullshit going on, and that Crowder was it was more about Big Con. Now he goes on to admit that he don't think Big Con was planned. It just kind of happened after the offer sheet. Well, and Dave's talking about how they're going to offer and counter offer. Well, it was rumored that Crowder came back and said, I want $120 million. Or 100, yeah, I think it was 120. And then Crowder came out, I think it was on Tim Pool's show, and said that's not true, which Dave's saying it is.
I just didn't buy it, and I was bothered by it. And then I thought, well, now you have this other company coming in who's paying God knows how much money. You have other companies that want to offer, and people are going, he said it's not about the money, but he just asked for $120 million. So 50.
Boom. See, that's what I'm talking about. So there was an offer sheet sent to Crowder for $50 million. And then there was a counter offer. The counter offer was the 120.
$50 million isn't about the money, and then it's $120 million, isn't? And I'm just being honest, going, that seems a little weird. And then for me, watching it, knowing what I had to look at and have to make choices on, and knowing how frustrated I was for pennies.
Yeah.
It was, it bothered me in a lot of ways, where I thought, I can just go and do my own thing. And I was much happier as just a road comic. I don't have to do this. I can just go do something else. It was his choice to rip up my contract, not mine.
Right.
It wasn't my choice for him to do this. So I wanted to go.
Were there any, let me ask this, just to be clear, were there any terms that were better with this proposed contract than you had already been receiving previously?
No.
Or was it all in the worst direction?
Oh, it was all in the worst direction. I wasn't sure. I was like, do you want to fire me? Like, just fire me.
You're right. It wasn't like the salary was doubled, but at the same time you got to move your family, right? It wasn't like a mix.
Right. No. It was no. It was
a worse offer than you had originally by every metric.
By every metric, except my agent kept telling me, hang in there. I'm telling you, by February, you'll have $350,000 a year.
Okay.
So as you can see there, Crowder wanted all this money, but he wanted Dave to sign a contract before they left the Blaze. Okay. And then Crowder wanted all this money, and the same agent that's working with Dave is working with Crowder, and that agent is feeding Dave a bunch of bullshit saying, hey, in February, this past February 2023, you'll get more money. And it's like, no, he's not. He signs a contract. He's going to get paid that money. He's not getting any more. And I can understand if he's given up if he's taken a heavy hit in his stand-up career and he has to move his family to Texas, he wants more money. Give him more money. Matter of fact, if you got to fire somebody to give him more money, I volunteer Gerald. I said it.
Why? How would that happen?
I had no idea, because it never did.
But why would it? If the contract's for less than that, why would it change by February?
No clue.
If you're not allowed to tour, it doesn't make any sense. Okay.
And I kept saying, but who's offering us? Like, is it the Daily Wire? Is it the Blaze? Is it this? Is it that? And he goes, well, I can't tell you that.
But if he's got you under contract, why would he give you a raise if he goes to the Daily Wire? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. But
exactly.
I just kept being told that. And I said, well, who's making the deal? And he's like, well, I can't tell you. That's Steven's deal. And I said, but I'm on
your agent?
He is my agent, I think.
Okay.
He was, he was.
Get a new agent, Dave. You need a new agent. The dude's a dirtbag.
But he's Steven's agent. He makes millions and millions and millions of dollars off of Steven. So,
okay,
I hope I know that their relationship that I connected them with has been very fruitful.
Okay,
and which is fine. I mean, it's odd because why wouldn't you? I have no problem with them working together, but why just sneak around and fuck me?
Yeah, right.
Like, you could have just told me that. I mean, you let me use your platform, I'll let you use my agent to make money. But instead, it's like, let's just give Dave nothing.
Right.
And it's odd because so many people have come out because I made a joke on the show where I said, look, I'm all about the money. It's what I do it for. I'm all about the money, which in a joking way is me saying, yes, I work for money. I don't work for wagon wheels and horseshoes. But at the same time, it was a joke because but so many people I realized are stupid and listen to some ungodly amount of money and go, you said it's not about the money. And that's the truth. And it's like, are you how stupid are you? Of course.
But here's the other thing. Let's suppose it's not about the money.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see anything in those Daily Wire terms that were particularly offensive. They weren't like move your family, change your name. You had to advocate for gun control, or you have to endorse Biden. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think anything in that contract was at all offensive from what I'd seen.
They could pay me all the money in the world. There's no way in hell I'm endorsing Joe Biden. Creepy old fucking pedo Joe Biden. But yeah, I agree. There wasn't a whole lot in that Daily Wire contract that was objective. I didn't like the idea of them getting, if they got suspended on YouTube, that they would have to give up some money. Like, I understand Daily Wire's perspective, but that part of the contract I thought sucked. But I think Crowder was trying to create a buzz, and maybe the contract really did piss him off. Okay, and he felt like his company was worth more than that. And I think anybody that runs a company, they're going to think they're worth more than, what they really are in real life. Okay. He's the biggest conservative personality on YouTube. I've heard that a million times. But dude, if you think you can't fall, it'll probably happen. And I just don't understand making it a big spectacle and then playing the recording of the phone call online, which Dave's getting ready to talk about that here soon. But yeah, it was not a good look, in my opinion.
No, I don't think that they did. And that's what my problem was with it. And I don't know anybody at the Daily Wire. The only reason why I know anybody at the Daily Wire is because they were friends with them.
Okay, yeah.
And that's what bothered me about it so much was I was like, why would you do that?
Folks, your welcome is brought to you by Progressive Insurance, and let's face it, sometimes multitasking can be overwhelming.
Michael Malice with the Progressive Auto Insurance.
Car fan is blasting, all while you're trying to find the perfect parking spot. But then again, sometimes multitasking is easy, like quoting with Progressive Insurance. They do the hard work of comparing rates so you can find a great rate that works for you, even if it's not with them. Give their nifty comparison tool a try. You might just find getting the rate and coverage you deserve is easy. All you need to do is visit Progressive's website to get a quote with all the coverages you want, like comprehensive, collision coverage, or personal injury protection. Then you'll see a Progressive direct rate, and their tool will provide options from other companies all lined up and ready to compare. So it's simple to choose the rate and coverages you like. Press play on comparing auto rates, quote at progressive.com to join the over 29 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states and situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Let's get back to the show. How did you find out that he tape records his phone calls?
I heard that he did.
Okay, people in the office talked.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had heard that he did, and that he'd showed a few other people how to do it.
Okay.
And that's how I knew. But then I really didn't care. I mean, there's cameras everywhere. It's like, but at the same.
So Crowder records all his phone calls, which I think in some areas, okay, it's cool. Maybe you're trying to protect yourself, protect your business, protect from being Me Too'd, protect from, disgruntled employees. Yeah, okay. But playing like contract negotiations on your show was probably not a good idea. I thought that was the one that was like, all right, dude, if you had a problem with it, you don't have to necessarily out them all the way like that. I mean, and like what Michael Malice said, I didn't think the contract was too terrible. Just tell them no, you didn't want to do it and move on. And the whole thing was with Crowder, oh, I want the up and coming YouTubers to have a chance to make it. I don't want them to have to sign these slave wage contracts with these companies and not make any money. And I want to support the young and up and comers. And what does he do? He signs a contract with Rumble and then brings on all his comedian buddies and helps 0 YouTubers. Okay. There's some out there that could probably use his help. Younger guys that, are wanting to make a name for themselves in conservative media that you could help. But you hired a bunch of comedians, which I like the comedians. Don't get me wrong. I still like the show. But you're not doing exactly what you said you were going to do. It looks like a bunch of show and bullshit to me.
Same time, I'm like, oh, he's in a business where maybe he needs to for whatever protection. I get it. He could
get me too really easily. You know how it works with
I get it. Yeah. So it's like I really didn't think it was that big of a deal. I did think it was a big deal to play it on the air.
Yeah.
And to call it slave wages when you buy clothing and mugs from slave wage countries where children make shit and you're saying you're a patriot. Like that bothers me because of the hypocrisy.
Got him. I agree with Dave on that. Hey, man, if you're America first, have your shit made in America. Well, it costs too much. So the fuck what? You believe in America first? Produce your, what's the fucking word for it? Your merch in the United States. If it costs a little bit more money, fine. I think that is hypocritical.
See, but is what it is. I guess I'm just being nitpicky at this point, saying something like that. But it bothered me because I would never record my friend and play it on the air.
Right.
And even this is a hard conversation to have because I want people to just kind of get a vague idea of why I left. So at that point, I honestly had no idea about any of this big con stuff. So if anybody thought it was a pre-planned thing, I can't say that. I don't know that to be true.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's various timelines, but I just saw it as these two things going on. And I called up Gerald, and I like Gerald a lot. And I said, Jeremy Boring's talking about a $50 million thing. Like I kind of saw Crowder talking about it, but now I'm watching this rebuttal. I don't understand, and I was furious, to be honest. And then when he came back with the other thing, I was like, don't play that.
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of furious with a lot of people with the infighting. I guess everything runs on hypocrisy and drama. That's the lubricant of our society. But it was all this infighting, going at each other.
The right is in shambles, and everybody's fighting with everybody, and it's not good. And this doesn't help. This video doesn't help, in my opinion. And maybe Dave's saying in his way that he wants to back out of making conservative content and get back into sketch comedy and stand-up, which is fine. Dave's allowed to do that. I mean, I never believed that Dave was like a conservative, and he never claimed to be. And I respected Dave for that. Like, he fought back on some issues. I know the only real argument that I seen him and Crowder have was about abortion. And Dave fought back with that. And I wish he would kind of tell that story, because I could tell when them going back and forth. Now, I don't agree with Dave's stance on abortion, but Dave pushed back with Crowder, and that show got kind of heated. And then the next day they talked about it a little bit. but I can't remember. It was like a while ago, like a year and a half ago, maybe. But so Dave has never claimed to be like super conservative or, but he's got common sense. He knows that there's a bunch of fucking idiots out there trying to destroy the country. Like, and I can respect him for that. So, but for him to come out and do this, I don't think it helps the right very much. And maybe that's not what he's trying to do. He's trying to not save his fan base, but give his fan base an explanation. But like I said, anytime you do that, you're going to have to tell this story. When you release this information publicly, you're going to constantly have to tell this story over and over and over and over, and you have no other choice. So you got to keep addressing it and talk it to death.
That saying of who was right and who was wrong, and I thought it was very clear who was right and who was wrong. It was playing a private conversation. It shouldn't have been done. That's my honest opinion. So I was going to go back onto the show. I was getting paid. I sent in a few things, but I did have jury duty on a day, and I just couldn't. I called and I quit. I said I couldn't do it.
How'd you say it? Were you nice about it?
I said, yeah. I go, I'm just saying I don't want to do it anymore. It's not for me. You guys had terminated my contract back in August. And then I followed up with a text because I learned the last time I quit a job to make sure this is the conversation we just had.
Yes.
To let you know.
Memorialize it. Yes. That's good advice to everyone listening. Yes.
Yes. And then he called me a couple days later and said, would you come in and do a farewell episode or something these 2 days?
Oh, you know what? Let me tell a story because this is something germane.
Sure.
Which I hadn't told. It's very briefly. I had the first draft due for the new right, like the book, and Charlottesville was coming up, and I told my editor, "Listen, this is going to be the perfect last chapter. I'm going to go to this thing, not even knowing it was going to be a huge thing. I thought I was going to interview all these guys. We're driving there on a Friday, and that was the first night. That's when they had that march, and it was on CNN. I'm like, okay, this is going to be, what are we getting ourselves into? And I was a little scared, to be honest. And put it together. I called my editor, excuse me. I had this conversation. He goes, okay, that sounds great. And then I think a week or a couple weeks later, he puts in writing, your book's officially late, blah, 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 blah. And when I confronted him about that phone call, he goes, oh, well, I don't remember saying that. So people who are listening to this, you'll be surprised by how comfortable people in power and corporations will lie or not care to your face. So if you have an important phone call where something that affects a project has been changed or codified, email them and have it in writing. There's no downside and there might be a major upside. Learn from me and Dave. Okay, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah. So I said I would, I'm like, you know what? I could come back. I do have to do jury duty that Monday, which I guess you can get out of, but I stupidly had already filled out a form. But I was also bothered because I had to reshoot my special. I had shot Normal World.
Why'd you have to reshoot the special?
Because he wanted to put out the version that he wanted from Dallas, and I didn't want that out. It was tainted for me. It was just a bad memory, and that's just.
I don't know if he's telling 100% truth with the whole jury duty thing, which I don't really care, but I don't know if that's true. Now, I know I have done jury duty, okay, and you do have to fill out a piece of paper and send it in and go through the process. Most people just ignore them and throw them away. But Dave, he wanted to do the right thing. He wanted to go do the jury duty, and, I don't know. I don't know if he's telling the 100% truth. I think he was conflicted and didn't want to go back, and he didn't want to do it anymore. But, what he's getting ready to talk about now, I think is the most fucked up part of this whole situation.
Simple as that. So I reshot my special, and then I had put out Normal World, and that came down to, I was told that it's if I didn't say that
Normal World is the new show he's going to be doing with Quarter Black Garrett. The what do you call it? The pilot is on YouTube under Dave. Just look up Dave Landau Normal World. I can't remember what his YouTube name is. On I don't know how to find him on YouTube besides typing in Dave Landau Normal World. His YouTube channel's got a weird name. But anyway, Normal World was funny as hell. Okay. I'm excited about this coming out. So, and he mentions it again here, but I wanted to say something to it as well.
That was originally supposed to be a pitch for Steven. They would fire the 3 employees that were in it at the time.
Wow.
And that was my choice. So 3 people were on the
say this. They for you to say publicly.
They said, that they had to basically come up with a statement and say that it was originally a pitch for Steven, so he could kind of own it. And that they wanted me to like take it down off of YouTube, and my agent said, take it down, I'll get it sold. And they would fire 3 people if I didn't take it down.
You were told this on the phone or in writing?
On the phone.
That your colleagues would be fired if you don't do this.
You were
threatened as hostage. They're basically hostages, right?
Yeah, and I saved plenty of texts, okay. But it was just a matter of, I was like, okay, but it was never for him. He could have gotten it though. He could have had the option to use it onto a new network. But I started making it because some of my sketches just weren't to the taste of that show, and I wanted to do something as a side project. Little too much gum references, especially the demon molesters. Just far too much gum. And
so the demon molester section of that pilot is fucking crazy, man. It's wild. I can understand Crowder not wanting to use that one, but the rest of it was just freaking hilarious. I mean, I like the demon molesters too. It was kind of funny, but but Crowder just wanting all this control is wild, man. Just straight up crazy. So it's just, I don't know. He's a freaking control freak.
And but truthfully, it was my own project because it's a surreal dystopian nightmare that's not necessarily right or left wing. It's not anything. It's just it's sort of just shining a light on everything in our society.
Okay.
And it's a different thing than what his show is. It was created very much separately, So that was another thing where I kept thinking, well, you never retweeted my special even to acknowledge it existed. Even though I had retweeted a few things, in his favor with the Daily Wire thing, even though I don't know if I should have.
Okay.
And I still backed him up. I didn't go against him or anything. I was like, okay, well, this is fine. I mean, I didn't put it out there. And in that moment, people were like, you should put up the contracts you have. Bury them right now. And I thought, no, there's people who work there that have families, and I care about the people who work there, and I'm not interested in taking down his show. I'm just interested in leaving.
Yes. Okay.
So I told them, look, I can come in and do kind of a farewell show, a couple shows. It got closer. They said I had to do the jury duty. I was going to go in on Monday. That was a huge problem for them. They were furious.
You're not allowed to have a problem at work if you have jury duty. I say this as an anarchist. Like you can, that's like, they're really big on this. You can't get fired or have consequences. If you get jury duty, even if you're on that jury for 6 months in some of these impaneled juries, you have to have your job when you get back. This is very known.
Yeah. And I was in LA and I was flying back to Dallas. But then I was just like, what are you gonna do? Fly back to Detroit? I was like, yeah.
I have to. Yeah.
What is that, magic? So that's what I did. And then I didn't get called in, but I had to be there.
Yes.
That was that simple. So it's what I had to do. It's what I did. And then I did offer to come in, but then it was sort of being ghosted. And I've had to deal with a few things with medication. I know I've had my own issues with mental health. It is what it is. But I have tried to be like, look, we can figure this out, whatever it is. But it's just come down to, And I would do want to say, if you're a fan of the show, watch the show. Nick DiPaolo is absolutely hilarious. I think it's great they have him on. I like Brian Callen a lot. I think it's great. Like, I don't want to be compared to other people that are being brought in. I think it's a good show. Like, that's the part that I don't want to go against. I just want to say.
I just did Brian Callen's show.
Did you?
And Brian was of the belief that the Second Amendment, well-regulated militia, means the government gets to regulate gun ownership. And I just yelled at him for 10 minutes straight. I don't know when that drops, and he appreciated being clowned because it was coming from an informed place. I really like Brian a lot.
He's a great guy.
And Nick's hilarious. I don't know him, but I like his.
Oh, he's one of the best comics ever, and I genuinely mean that. And he's just phenomenal. So there's no part of me that wants to see any ship like that sink.
Yeah,
there's just the part of me that goes, for whatever reason, he and I had this tension that I think was especially custom to me because he saw me and him as very similar. And at that point, I just said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I don't know why he is like this with some co-hosts. I know he has a track record, and I just have to leave. That's why I'm leaving. And I do sincerely wish him the best. I wish that show the best. But for anybody who's watching, I'm going to do my own thing. I really hope he respects that, and I respect him, but it's like, it's done. I cannot be part of that anymore after, how I was treated. And I'm happy to go. I just don't want to do it. Done.
Wasn't there some miscommunication about your last days on the show publicly?
Yes.
Can we talk about that briefly?
Yes. Well, it was the jury duty thing. Wasn't that the...
Well, did they say you're coming back?
They did say I was coming back because I did say I would come back and do those days as long as I didn't have to go back for that reason.
Okay.
And they sent me an NDA to sign and with a money amount. I turned it down. I said, I'm not going to sign an NDA. That goes against everything that your show stands for.
Yeah. Non-disclosure agreement, people who don't know what that is. Yeah.
Yes. He sent me a gift to help for getting him to Rumble. No strings attached. Very nice. But I said
cash
that,
gift or a physical gift?
Cash. It was
okay.
Cash. But it was still something which I appreciate. It was nice. But after that, it's like it's just done. That I was not going to sign anything. I was not going to say that I'm not going to ever defend myself or say there was a reason that I didn't leave.
So Crowder wanted him to sign an NDA, which is just crazy. But I think Not Gay Jared had to sign one too when he left the show. So I don't know. Crowder wants to protect himself from all the bullshit he does behind the scenes, which is just fucking... At least there ain't no gay shit coming out. I'm getting tired of these conservatives getting exposed for being fucking gay. Like, that's just, I don't know. Glad it wasn't gay. Right? That's all I can say about this whole situation.
Leave or take or just say that, I deserved it. Or the reality was in the last year, I was treated in a way that I did not deserve to be treated. And regardless of any amount of money that people think or thought that I made, it was not worth it. And I appreciate every fan that came out to every show. And I really do appreciate deeply the fan base that Steven got me. But it just, by the end of it, the gaslighting and I'm glad to be done. And that's about it, and the confusion came to a lot of people that called them a liar about jury duty. Steven wasn't lying. That was the truth. It's just, they didn't have me back on after that because they were very upset that I chose jury duty, but that was how it worked. And then I think he felt embarrassed that I didn't show up after he said I'd show up. And that is pretty much how I got ghosted or whatever this thing's been. But I don't want to ignore the fans anymore. And every day I get, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? I'm not. So
when was the last time you spoke with him?
And that pretty much wraps it up. He goes on for a second, tells the last text message they sent each other, which wasn't important. But pretty much that's it. Dave is done with Louder with Crowder. He's never coming back. So if anybody's ever thinking like, one day Dave will be back on the show, this wraps it up. He'll never be back on there. I expect him to pop up on some of the Blaze shows because he did just sign with the Blaze doing sketch comedy called Normal World. I think that was what it was called. But anyway, they're going to do a sketch comedy, him and Quarter Black. So you'll probably see him pop up on like Sarah Gonzalez's show. You'll probably see him pop up on. Oh, dude, please, Dave, if you see this live stream, okay, which I talked to you, I messaged you on Instagram and you've messaged me back a few times. I'm going to literally send you a message right after this live stream. Dave Landau, do not go on Alex Stein's show. He is a fucking train wreck. Alex Stein is probably the worst host that Blaze TV could have ever put in that position. His show is absolutely hilarious, or absolutely horrendous, not hilarious. It's horrendous. And he makes a mockery. Like, I would be embarrassed to be a guest on Alex Stein's show. And I'm going to show you why next week, because I'm going to make a video about Alex Stein. I'm going to make a video about Sydney Watson and her lawsuit against the Blaze. But the Blaze signing Alex Stein was stupid. And I know they think like, oh, and a lot of people like Alex Stein. I think he's fucking annoying, okay? And he's so against, Alex Stein is so against trans kids, like kids becoming trans. But he promotes trans people on his show. He even dresses in trans clothing, like women's clothing. So you got to watch the kind of content, and you think it's funny. You think it's a comedy sketch. You think this dude is doing it for comedy. What makes you think he doesn't do that shit in his personal life? Like, dude, I understand he's not a conservative, okay? But he is working for right-wing media that has went way liberal here lately, but they are technically right-wing media. And it's just crazy. People actually like Alex Stein. I don't know, man. You got to pay attention. These people are deceiving. These people do not care about you. They don't care about the right winning. They care about, I don't even think they really care about the issues. They care about likes, views, follows, money. Likes, views, follow, money. It's right in front of your face. If you find it entertaining, that's fine. But I don't find a fucking 40-year-old man dancing around in a skirt or some kind of dress or something entertaining. I don't find that entertaining. While the country is burning to the fucking ground, a grown man is making a mockery out of you. Whether it's left or right, I don't stand for that shit. It's ridiculous. And I know I'm going off on a rant about Alex Stein, but the dude is fucking terrible. Can we please quit giving this guy a platform? So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I'm done ranting about Alex Stein. I'm done talking about Dave Landau and the Crowder beef. I am going to say this to end, okay? Can we make it stop? Can we make it stop? All this fucking drama, all this bullshit. Well, Kyle, you're still going to put out videos against Alex Stein and Sydney Watson, so you're adding to it. No, I'm exposing these fucking frauds. I'm tired of all these frauds. These people do not, Sydney Watson is a feminist, okay? And Alex Stein is an unfunny comedian that is making a mockery out of shit that you care for right in front of your face. And you think it's funny. It's not funny. The dude's an idiot. He's a failed comedian turned political commentator. And he says absolute absurd things back about 6-7 months ago, he went on Tim Pool's show and started talking about, I can't remember what he was talking about. He's talking about like the earth being flat or never being to the moon or something. And as soon as like Tim Pool pushed back on him, his ideas just crumbled. Okay. Now, I'm not saying Tim Pool was right. I don't know. But it tells me that Alex Stein just says crazy shit so that he can get your attention, so he can get likes, follows, contracts, money. He doesn't actually believe the shit. And that's what pisses me off. Now, if he actually believed the shit that he was talking about, okay, I might give him a chance. I think his comedy sucks. And if you don't think Alex Stein's comedy sucks, go check out his stand-up. But anyway, you get me all fired up about Alex Stein, or I got myself all fired up. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close this live stream. I hope the Dave Landau and Crowder beef is over, but I'm warning you, Dave, you're going to have to tell this story over and over and over, and it's just going to be a continuous thing. I would say after next week, I would stop doing interviews about Crowder, because the more you tell the story, the more it's going to make you look bad, even if you are in the right. And I do believe you are in the right in this situation. So that's just my personal opinion. I mean, you can keep telling the story if you want. You're a grown-ass man. The only thing I didn't agree with you in this whole interview is you not wanting to get in the elf costume. Okay? Look, Dave, there's nobody else that could get in the elf costume. You're short, okay? You can't reach the top shelf in most grocery stores. You're just going to have to come to that decision in your mind that you got to wear the elf costume. I'm just kidding. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you have a good rest of your Saturday. This has been the podcast 2 Protects 1. My name is Kyle. Have a blessed day. I hope your family has a blessed day. God bless you, and God bless America. I'm out.